Today, students, we are going to read and understand lesson 1.2 of 6th standard English Balbharathi textbook. Who's the greatest? We all are very well acquainted with Akbar and Birbal and have loved their stories. So come along, let's enjoy two more amusing and interesting stories. Who's the greatest? Emperor Akbar or Akbar the Great is known as one of the greatest rulers in the world. Now, why was he known as one of the greatest rulers? Not just because he had a vast empire. Vast means spread out far and wide, a huge kingdom. Not because he had a very strong army, or not because he had untold wealth. Untold wealth means he had great wealth which couldn't even be, calculated. Untold wealth, lot of wealth. But he was known as one of the greatest rulers in the world because he was a good human being. He cared for his subjects. Now, cared means he was concerned. He really loved his subjects. Subjects are the people of his kingdom. So he really cared for them. He would always think about them. He was concerned about their welfare. He had great respect for scholars. Who are scholars? Scholars are great learned people. So he respected them for gaining so much of knowledge. So he had great respect for scholars, writers, poets, and artists. Now, who are artists? Artists are people like they would be good at dancing, or maybe they were very good at singing, or maybe painting. So, such people are called artists. So, he had great respect for them. Now, he had great respect for all kinds of people, that is, even those belonging to different religions. Now, we all know that Akbar was a Muslim king, but yet he did not discriminate. He did not say that you are from this religion, I will not like you. He loved everybody, irrespective of what religion they belong to. He was a patron of art and culture. Patron means a person who always encourages people who are artists, people who do work for encouraging any form of culture like singing, dancing, painting, like artists, poets. All these people he would patronize. That is, he would give them gifts. He would give them gifts in the form of money, or it could be any other gifts in the form of kind, any things like jewelry, or maybe some jahagir from his kingdom. So he was a patron of art and culture. Now he had 9 gems or Navratna in his court who were very famous. Now, 9 gems means 9 people who were very, very good at their profession. Some were singers, some were very good at other things. So, he had given them the title as Navratna. So, these people were very, very famous in Akbar's court. And many people believe that of these 9 gems, one of the gem, that is Birbal, was the closest to the emperor's heart. Now, closest to the emperor's heart means he loved him very much among all the other people that the Akbar loved. So he loved Birbal more than all the other people. Now, when we listen to the stories, we will come to know why Akbar loved Birbal. Akbar loved to pose interesting questions. Pose means to ask interesting questions or problems in his court, and Birbal never failed to come up with an equally interesting answer. Never failed means he was always ready with an equally interesting answer, because Akbar would always ask interesting questions or questions which would require a lot of thinking. So Birbal was the one to come up with an answer. So therefore, this was one of the reasons why Emperor Akbar loved Birbal. Now, we don't know whether all the Akbar and Birbal stories that we hear today have any basis in history. That means there are thousands and thousands of stories written about Akbar and Birbal. But nobody knows for sure how far they are true. That is, they do not have any basis. We have learnt in history that how they find out. They do scientific methods to find out whether this particular story or this particular incident is true or no. So they will find out many, many ways. But there are many stories about Akbar and Birbal of which they have not got any such evidence whether it is true or somebody has just made up these stories. That is, somebody has just come up with these stories, and these stories have not really happened. So we don't really know. But then still, we can just enjoy these stories. Now, these stories, that is, they have been handed down over generations. Generations means from father to the children, and when they grow up, from them to their children. So, like this, the stories have been handed down mainly by word of mouth. Word of mouth means there is nothing written story. They were not written in those days, in the olden days. They would just tell these stories from one person to another. So that is called word of mouth. Something that is told from one person to other is called word of mouth. Now here are two interesting stories about Akbar and Birbal. So let's enjoy them. One day, the emperor entered the court with a very serious expression. Now, expression means the facial expression that we put on the face. So when we have a happy face, we show that we are smiling, or if we have a sad face, our face will have a frown, or when we are in pain. So all those expressions on our face are called the facial expressions. So he had a very serious expression on his face. So that is something concerned. He was concerned about something. So that is why he had a serious expression on his face. Now, as soon as he was seated, he said, I have a question for all of you. What should be the punishment for someone who pulls my mustache? The mustache means the facial hair that grows on men's upper lip. So he said, what should be the punishment for someone who pulls my mustache? Now the court was stunned. Court means all the people in the court, present in the court that day. They were stunned. Stunned means astonished, astounded, surprised. What is this question the emperor is putting forward? Pull the emperor's mustache? It was unheard of. Who will dare to do? Who will have the courage to go and pull the emperor's mustache? They couldn't even think about it, and they had never heard about such a thing. So, what could be the punishment? So, they started giving their, opinion. They said, flog him, give him 50 lashes of the whip. Now, flog him is it's a with an instrument that is a whip, that is on one side there is a stick and the other side extends with a leather belt. So they will whip that person. That is, they will beat that person with it. So those are called lashes. And the person said that person who has done this should be given 50 lashes. So that is called flogging. Okay, so beating with a whip is called flogging. So exclaimed one nobleman. Exclaimed means he said with, with great anger. So exclaimed one nobleman. The other one said, that's not enough. Put him in jail without food and water, said another. So why were they saying? Because they were saying, who would dare to even do such a thing as to pull the emperor's mustache? An emperor is such a kind, such a great person. Who would dare do it? Let's continue with the story. Whip him, beat him up, hang him, cut off his offending hands. Now, offending is the hands that has done this act of pulling the mustache of the emperor. So, this is the wrong act or a bad act. Is called an offending act. Offending act that nobody likes it. So, that is called an offending hand. So, one person said, cut off his offending hands. The agitated is angry. The people who are not very happy, so they are irritated about something. So the agitated courtiers are people who are present in the court, began to cry out. Cry out means shout out. They said, whip him, beat him up, hang him, cut off his offending hands. So, this is how they started screaming and telling the king what to do. Now, only Birbal was silent. He was even smiling a little. Okay, strange, isn't it? All got very angry that somebody could dare do such an act of pulling the emperor's mustache. But Birbal sat there quietly and he was even smiling. What do you say, Birbal? What is your opinion? Asked the emperor. What do you have to say? Opinion means what do you have to say? So that is the opinion. Now Birbal says, in my opinion, O giver of peace to the world. Now this is how he is addressing the king. O giver of peace. So one who is giving peace to the world, because Emperor Akbar was a very good king. Everybody loved him. So that is how Birbal is calling out to him. He's saying, in my opinion, O giver of peace to the world, the offender. Now, who is an offender? The person who has done a bad act, an act that nobody likes. That person is called an offender. So, the offender should be given his favorite sweetmeats. Sweetmeats means a sweet dish. So, your Birbal is saying the offender, that is the person who has done something wrong, should be given sweets. Arre, what is this? Raja Birbal, are you out of your mind? Give sweetmeats for such a grave offense. So they, the courtiers, began to say, they said, what, are you out of your mind? That is, are you gone mad? Okay, are you gone mad to give sweetmeats? Sweetmeats means mithai to such a grave offense. Grave means serious. Such a such a big offense that person is doing, wrong, such a big wrong he is doing of pulling the emperor's mustache, and as a punishment you're telling him give mithai, give him sweets. The courtiers began to say. Now Birbal smiled and offered an explanation. So he said, okay, let me explain it to you. Okay, yes, you, sorry, yes, who would be so bold as to pull the emperor's mustache? So, who would do such an act of going and pulling the emperor's mustache? Only his grandson. So, only a grandson, isn't it? A small child, a small baby will dare to pull somebody's mustache. Nobody else will do that. Now, when Akbar heard this, he burst out laughing. Burst out laughing means he started laughing very loudly, because that is exactly what had happened in the morning. So, in the morning, Akbar's grandson had pulled his mustache. So, Birbal remembered that, and that is why he had a smile on his face before giving the explanation. And therefore, that is the reason why he was very calm. He knew what to say to the king. So, this is how the story ended, the first story. Now, let's go to the next one. On another occasion, be means some other time. On another occasion, Akbar was relaxing with some of his courtiers. So he was taking a very calm, cool, relaxing means taking rest with some of his courtiers around him. Now, a few of them thought this was a great opportunity. Opportunity means great chance to shower praise on the emperor. Shower praise means to tell the emperor all good things about the emperor. Whether it's true or no, no problem. They would want to shower some praise on him. And they found that emperor is relaxing, he's resting, he's in cool mind. So let's shower some praise and get some favors from him. That is, the emperor will be very happy, and so he will reward them. He will give them some things what they may even ask for that. He say, Akbar, please give me this. So Akbar may be very happy because they are giving him praises. They are telling so nice things about him. So he maybe feel happy and give them some reward, give them some gifts, give them some prizes. Now they began to compete with each other in praising Akbar. So they started competing. They said, no, no, I will say better than him. I will praise the king in better words than what he is saying. So they started competing. You are the greatest of the kings, one of them said. You are the greatest of the kings or emperors that ever lived on the earth. You are the greatest of all the people in heaven or earth. You are as great as God Almighty, that is, God Himself. So one person says, you are as great as God. Another says, you are greater than the God Almighty. So one says, you are as great as God, and the other person says, you are greater than even God. Now, Akbar was no fool. He was a great emperor. He was very clever. So, he did not care for false praise. So he knew that there is no truth behind all the praises that they are showering on me. So he knew all this is all not true. It is all false. He stopped the courtiers. He said, okay, enough. Okay, I've heard enough of you. Now stop. And asked, do you all believe so? So whatever you have said about me, do you believe? So they all answered yes. How could they say, no, no, we don't believe? So they said yes. They answered in one voice. Together they said, yes, yes, whatever we say is true. You are the greatest. So Akbar said, all right then, prove it to me. Prove it means now show it to me that all this that you are saying is true. Tell me at least one thing that I can do, but God Almighty will not be able to do. Because they were praising him in such a way that they said that you are greater than God also. So now Akbar says, okay, now tell me and show me how I am greater than God also. Show me any one thing, at least one thing you'll show me that will that will really, then I will be able to believe that yes, I am greater than God also. But he puts a condition. He says, otherwise, that is, if you are not able to show it to me, if you are not able to prove it that I am greater than God, otherwise, you will all incur our royal displeasure. Incur means you all will get, okay? Royal means kings. King's displeasure. Displeasure means unhappiness. So, everybody will be unhappy about it. You have till tomorrow morning to prove it. So I'll give you the time till tomorrow morning. So in the morning, when I come back to court, so you have to prove it, you have to show it to me how I am greater than God Almighty. Then Akbar then left the place without another look at the courtiers. So he was very, very annoyed, maybe. Okay, so what is this? My courtiers are all giving me false praises. So he just went ahead and he said, let me see now how these people are going to prove it and show it to me. So he just went ahead without even looking back. Now, all the courtiers, they were in a proper fix. Fix means now they were very, very confused as to now how to prove it. They said that you are greater than God also. Now, how to prove that? They all thought and thought, but couldn't think of any such thing. So they can, how will say that, because God is greatest. So how can they say one person is greater than God? In the end, they went to Birbal. So they said, let's go to Birbal and ask him, tell him to solve this problem and save us. Now, when Birbal heard their story, he told them not to worry. He said, don't worry. I will explain everything to the king. Y'all don't worry. Y'all go back home, relax, come back tomorrow in the morning, and I will explain everything to the king. Now, what happened? The next morning, the court was full. Everyone was curious to see what would happen next. Now, the court was full means there were a lot of people who had come to the court that day. So it was full of people, and everyone was curious. Curious means wanting to know. Everybody was curious to see what would happen next. Now, how will Birbal show that he is greater than king, and whether what will happen, whether the king will accept his his answer, or whether king will punish Birbal. So they wanted to know what will happen next. Well, said the emperor, have you found a good answer to my question, or are you ready to leave the court forever? So he's saying, come on, come out with your answer, or you'll have to get out of this court forever, never come back. Now, just then Birbal stepped forward and bowed low. So he's a king, no? So, as a mark of respect, people would bow before a king. So he bowed low. No, he said, he requested the king, please don't be angry with those who think you are the greatest. He said, these people think that you are greatest. So don't be angry with them. There's certainly at least one thing that you can do, but God Almighty cannot. So Birbal now says, there is one thing that only you can do it, and even God cannot do it. Now Akbar looked at Birbal thoughtfully. He said, what is wrong with Birbal? Let me listen to his answer. What is he saying? That I can do something which even God can't do? Let me listen. And what is that one thing? So Akbar wanted to know. Come on, tell me. What is that one thing that which I can do and God Almighty can't do? Now Birbal answers. When you want to punish someone, you can banish that person. Banish means, you have to tell them, give them punishment that you have to go out of this kingdom. Okay, and never come back into the kingdom. So that is the punishment the king can give, and you can throw him out of your kingdom. You can tell him, get out of my kingdom, never come back. So that is the punishment you can give him. But God's kingdom, now God is also a king, no? So God's kingdom extends means spreads everywhere. The whole earth is God's kingdom. So the Almighty, that is God, cannot banish anyone from his kingdom. He can't throw him out of the earth. No, where will that person go? Because the whole of the earth is God's kingdom. So Akbar's face was lit up with a smile. Lit up means he had a big smile on his face. Lit up means when you smile, your whole face becomes bright, isn't it? So your face brightens up. So Akbar's face also lit up with a smile. That was very clever, Birbal. So he's saying, okay, Birbal, that was a very clever answer. While showing how I have an advantage. I have an advantage means I am better than God also. You have also shown that God is greater, because Birbal says, no, God's kingdom is so vast, even bigger than your kingdom. Your kingdom is limited to the place that you rule. Okay, but God's kingdom is this full earth. So Birbal said two good things. One thing, he said that God is greater than Akbar. And at the same time, he said Akbar can do something which even God can't do. So now Akbar says, I believe you. Now, Akbar was so pleased with the answer that he forgave the courtiers for their stupidity. Stupidity means being stupid. They were giving all false praises that you are even greater than the king, you are this, you are that. So they said, okay, these people are all foolish. Let me forgive them. No? So he was very, very happy. So when you are happy, you even forgive people. No? So this is how Akbar loved the answer as well as he forgave the courtiers. So wasn't these stories very interesting, amusing, very, very knowledgeable? We learned so much. Here are the meanings of some of the new words from the lesson. And for more worksheet on this lesson, please visit our website at www.jkacademypro.com.